Phil, in your experience, what's the process for running backs to kind of gain a chemistry with the offensive line through the offseason or as the season's going along?
Reps. I mean, reps is the key. I think that's been hard to do here because we've been enjoying all this depth in the running back room, which we all know we didn't have last year, right? So it's always a good problem to have, but I think guys get in a groove, they get a feel for the front, the line, the mesh with the quarterbacks, and all of the other timing that comes with the running game as you rep more. And there's a great emphasis on running the football in our practices, so I don't know that there's a lack of them, but as we have whittled down who we're focusing in on in the backfield in the last week, it was primarily Tawee and Darian. Obviously that helps that play right there for reps during the week in preparation. So that to me is the biggest issue. I'd say that pretty much at any position for any level of performance.
Mark. Phil, I guess I'm wondering, like when you have a line blocking them the way like your offensive line was blocking this past weekend, does that affect how you call the game? And if so, can you share a little insight into how maybe that affects when you see them blocking that way, how that maybe affects, what you do?
So I always say, as much as we enjoy all these skill guys, the offense is only as good as the offensive line. And that holds true for the run game and for the passing game. And we did a good job on both fronts Saturday. And so it gave Braden ample time to make some throws, and it opened some holes for some of these backs. And so that's really where you want the offense. When Fick said in his press conference, like, this is what we expect, this is what you want, he wasn't talking about the yardage and the points, although you'll take that anytime you can get it. He was talking about this consistent performance and us taking care of some of the little things, which I thought we did a really good job of emphasizing this week. There was a lot of little things. When you really know ball and you're sitting in here and you're watching film and you know the sport, you look at some of the things we've done leading up to these past couple of weeks and some of the things that we're doing now, and the players are doing a good job of polishing and cleaning up some of these little things that maybe we didn't do earlier on. And that includes the offensive line. And so some of the same plays that we ran Saturday hit more successfully than they did earlier, just because we're doing a better job from an execution standpoint. But to answer your question about the play calling, I would say, there's a plan to throw the ball and a plan to run the ball in every game. I could never tell you how much we're going to do either one. Just want to make sure that we're really efficient when we do both. And the way the offense is designed, I keep getting asked this question, now what's the character of the offense? The character of the offense is taking advantage and attacking the weaknesses of the defense. Do we hang our hat on certain runs and certain throws? Yeah, we have some base foundational plays in the offense that the players will be able to tell you from the get-go. There's 4 run plays and 8 or 10 pass plays that we will call are the fundamental foundation of the offense. But the character of the offense is us making good decisions pre-snap at quarterback and executing post-snap and taking advantage of what the defense has given us. That way, if we have to throw it more to win a game, we can. If we have to run it more to win a game, we can. And, the balance for us is ball distribution. You saw a lot of people touch the football on Saturday, and to us, that's balance, not 40 runs and 40 passes. I've explained that before, but we want them to have to defend the entire field, and we want them to have to defend all 5 skilled players on the field, including, the 6th one, which is our quarterback.
Phil, Mabrey's obviously in a much different role from where he was in the spring and in the preseason as well. What's your assessment of where you think he's made the most gains since he got here, and where you feel like he still needs to grow, knowing that he's potentially one play away at this stage?
So progress, I've been happy with my room in particular because I think Braden Locke, who has done a good job of making decisions between the signal and the snap, also he's just really, really, really high end from a mental standpoint. He's a junkie, and he loves it. And I think that's kind of where you have to be if you want to take this quarterback position to a different level. There's some great ones out there right now, and a few of them are playing very well because they're making great decisions. And then there's others, and you know who we're talking about, but there's others out there right now that are ultra talented, but they're not making good decisions and they're not playing very good And it is in my opinion, a very undervalued and overlooked area of quarterback play, and that's the decision-making process while they're on the field, just before the snap. And so he's doing a good job. Now, why do I bring that up? Because he kind of sets the standard in our room. You can't help if you're backing up or you're behind the starter on the depth chart when it's Braden Locke, but feel like you're going to be challenged mentally every day. You know, if I ask the quarterbacks a question and I say a name, Mabrey, and then I ask a question, the only guy I want to answer that question is Mabrey. If I ask an open question, I want them all to answer, and I want them to know the answer faster than the rest of them. And so you got a couple guys, a few guys in that room trying to beat Braden Locke to the answer to the question. They can't do it. But what's happening is they're getting better and better and better, and they're starting to learn this stuff more and more. And I think Braden is helping us bring them along with the fact that he's mentoring some of those guys. So for the limited action and for what little we asked Mabrey to do Saturday, he did a really good job. I told Coach Fickle this though. I went up to Mabrey and I said, "You're going in next drive, warm up." He did. I went over to him after Braden commandeered the last drive that he had, and I said, "You know, are you nervous? This is your first opportunity." And he was like, "I'll clean it up for you." He was like, "Heck no, I'm ready to roll. I've been waiting for this." And he was jacked up to get out on the field. And so there's a sense of calm and a confidence because he knew what he was doing. And I think he was just itching to get out there, show everybody what he could do. And so I like that attitude, and I like the fact that he's getting, week to week to week, he's getting better mentally, and he's executing better when we're out on the practice field. And I would point out that the walk-on that we have right now, Milos is doing a really good job as well, and he's been a part of that whole process. So we've been happy with him also.
Donnie on the right.
How you doing, Phil? So second half, whole time you guys are up multiple possessions, multiple touchdowns. I feel like conventional wisdom is to not make any mistakes, don't let them get back into it, and just kind of run the ball and run the clock out. But you guys kept your foot on the gas pedal. You kept throwing, deep balls the entire game. I'm curious what the thought process behind that was, as well as the value of that kind of consistency and intensity.
So I think when you want to win games, you got to go win games. And we talk from an offensive and defensive standpoint about attacking all the time. And that mentality is what you need as a player. It's also what you need as a coach. And so we're always going to call plays. I think we're always going to game plan. I think we're always going to try to go execute, being in attack mode all the time. The other thing is these guys earn the right to play, and they're out there doing their deal, and we're going to give them the chance to do it. I don't know that we would want a game to go any differently than it did Saturday. We're trying to get better at certain things. We're trying to maintain some consistency, and right now what's really important is that we play 4 really high-end quarters every week, not 2.5, not 3. And so there was a great emphasis in being able to come out here and close a game that we created a lead at halftime and close the game out like we feel like we need to and we should. And I think they did that, Saturday against Purdue.
Steve.
I think over half the Big Ten teams have transfers as their starting quarterbacks right now. I think this goes throughout the Power 4 conferences. It's like that. Does that surprise you at all? Why do you think so many teams have gone to the portal to find their starter rather than go to the high school?
I mean, in light of what has transpired here with the portal, it doesn't surprise me because I think last year, I don't know what the number is, but I know it was more than half of the teams had quarterbacks that had come from the portal. And in a perfect world, I'd love to recruit a freshman and bring him in, and he persevere and he work and grind and stay there and earn his keep and find his way onto the roster and onto the field and into the starting spot. And you'd like that to go on with everybody that goes through the room there. And you're gonna have 4 scholarship kids in every room, in every program. I don't think it's, unfortunately, in my opinion, I don't think it's realistic now that all 4 of them go through the whole process. I think you're very fortunate when you can continue to bring in freshmen and develop them and let them earn their way onto the field. And then when it's their turn, they go take advantage of it. Right? Those are the old days, and those days aren't here anymore. And so you kind of have to reevaluate every room, every year. As you hear a lot of coaches say, this is much closer to the NFL model right now than we would like it to be, I would think, but you have to. So what do we have? What as a starter, but also what do we have behind it that we can develop, and what do we gotta do to keep them? And because development is still the most important piece of this whole thing, especially at the quarterback position. And so what happens, what the guys lose when they move around, and I'm not questioning any of them, everybody has to do what's good for their life and their career, but when you move around, it is hard to progress as quickly, because you're constantly changing, right? If you're gonna go on a diet and you're gonna change from one to the next to the next to the next in a matter of 4 years, it's hard to maintain some consistency and some success. So I think player development in the weight room and with the speed work and with the mental stuff that they have to do, obviously when there's consistency and stability there, it lends to their success a little bit quicker. And so I think you lose that a little bit. Now, there's also the need on the other end of it. When you need a guy, you need a guy, and the portal provides a place to go and shop for him.
Jesse, Phil, two-part question. When you have a game like that, when you put up 52 points, for you personally, did you feel like you needed a performance like that, or does it feel like a sense of relief to show what the ceiling can be? And secondarily, is that the type of performance that you think can help this group turn a corner moving forward?
So kind of the answer is really similar for both. I mean, you want to be explosive every game. Our rule and our goal, the only goal we have is +1, and that means we have to win a game 13-12, then we'll take it. If we've got to win a game 52-51, then that's what our job is. So I always feel like it's our fault if we don't win football, okay? And I tell that to our players, not to put pressure on them that it's only our job, as Coach keeps saying, we got to play complementary football. We have to help the other two facets. Sometimes that means ball control. Sometimes it means scoring early. Sometimes it means taking care of the middle eight. Whatever it is, that's what we're trying to accomplish offensively. But I do think these games don't do as much for me because my process every week and our staff's process every week is the same. We didn't prepare for Western any differently than we prepared for Alabama, any differently than we prepared for this game. It's the same process. And it still comes down to tackling and throwing and catching and blocking and doing all those things. And so that's the stuff that we work on, those little things. For the players, I'm happy the game went the way it went because I think the players are starting to realize what they're capable of, right? I always think it helps confidence. Game like Saturday also gave us an opportunity to play a lot of young guys who went in and actually did a lot of good things. You got to see Dylan Jones do his thing. And there were a number of other younger players, I think on both sides of the ball, that made some plays that will only pay great dividends down the road when we call them for real situations where they've got to make plays in real time. And I just think that's also a big part of the whole development process that we need to have going on with our guys on the roster.
Time for a couple more, Ron.
Coach, Trench told me last week you guys had a productive meeting midweek that you kind of went over some of the details that you wanted to improve on. What went along in that meeting, and how did you kind of see that come on the field on Saturday?
Every week, my overall vision is of I got to handle my quarterback room. And then we've got some great coaches handling their position rooms, which has been awesome because I really never have to concern myself with anything positionally. We talk about it as a staff and they go nail it, and then we get better at it on the field. And so that's been a real luxury here. It's been outstanding. And then the second thing I would say is outside of the QB room, I've got to look at the offense from a broader view, just in terms of what we're doing and where we're going. And one of the things that I go through on Sunday after I grade the quarterbacks in the game that we played on Saturday is I go back through it from a team standpoint. And occasionally you have guys that I say they're getting a little quiet, right? They were playing well, they're playing at a high level, been kind of quiet in practice or in the game over the course of a couple weeks, and you kind of expect a little bit more from them. And I try to ask myself, who are those guys every week? And I usually just address them discreetly one-on-one, to try to figure out maybe sometimes there's an off-the-field issue going on, maybe there's more of an injury that we're not aware of and it's affecting them, maybe it's, whatever. And so I just tend to have those 3 or 4 meetings every week individually, quietly, and just sometimes conversations help. Sometimes just caring makes a difference. Sometimes kids are not aware that maybe they're they're fading or they're drifting a little bit, and just kind of re-emphasizing where they need to be from a focus standpoint is helpful. I don't know that my conversation helped Tretch as much as he gives it credit for, but I think, you know, I just expressed we have a lot of confidence in him. And I also said, you know, we kind of expect more from you. And he answered. You know, Saturday's performance was all about Tretch and not doing me. It just was, you know, I think he got a little more refocused, and he took advantage of an opportunity also when Will got hurt.
Two more, Nick and then Cole.
Hey Phil, you talk a lot about the pre-snap aspect with Braden. You know, he told me post-game that he noticed, I saw you guys had a moment, the second score to Tretch, he noticed zero hole coverage and, you know, signaled into the pass, and obviously that turned into a touchdown. You know, just how is that indicative of some of his film studies, and what was that moment like for the trust in your quarterback?
You know, that's that one play is a really good example of what somebody, a quarterback particularly, who is really mentally prepared for the opponent. It's a really good microcosm of what he does every down. So he had 17 plays that he checked on Saturday. You know, I don't know, I guess we played 70 plus plays, I can't remember what it was. But he impacted 17 plays, 16 of them he impacted positively. Right, and that's 17 plays where my play call wasn't outstanding. You know, we call something based on the game plan that we like, well, the defense is showing us something different, and they're presenting a problem for the play that I call. And you don't want to rely on my play call to be better than the defense coordinator's play call every down, or we're not gonna win as many games. What we wanna be able to do is make a good, sound play call that is game planned and schemed for a particular reason because we like it. And then when they present problems, the quarterback has to be able to fix those pre-snap. And he was 16-1 on those 17 plays, and that was a large part to, I think, us kind of getting out of the, you know, he had the one interception that was 100% his responsibility, the second one. And then after that, I think we kind of settled in, made some good decisions. You know, he threw the ball better and more consistently than he did the week before, and you know, that was a big part of why we were so successful in the second half.
Phil, you talked before and today about how much of a junkie Braden is, how invested he is. I know you spend a lot of time with your guys away from the field as well. What have you learned about Braden's personality, just away from football and the time he does get to unplug a little bit?
So I've always known since I recruited him that, even back in high school, that he loves the game as much as he does, right? What you don't know until you sit down on a day-to-day basis, though, is how good is he really at understanding the game. And a lot of people, when you sit down, there's a lot more intelligent people out there than myself, and when you sit down and talk to football about them, they understand it and they get it. The key is, though, the trick is, can you take in all this information, make the right calls, utilize the proper technique, and then go execute the play in the few seconds that you have in between each play to go do it. You know, like we have one in our room right now, and he can write up anything on the board. He can tell you all the answers. It doesn't necessarily happen at the speed of the game when he's out there. You know, and that's the gap he's trying to close, to go from understanding the game to understanding the game at real speed. You know, and there's a drastic difference between those two things. So understanding it is one thing, being able to execute it at the speed of the game when the bullets are flying is entirely another. And I think that's where Braden Locke is right now, and that's why we had some of the success we had last week.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you.